The shockingly high rate of Indigenous children in the criminal justice system is one of the most critical social issues in South Australia. Indigenous young people are around 31 times more likely as non-Indigenous people to be in detention, and Indigenous people make up more than a quarter of the prison population, despite making up just 2.5% of the Australian population. The best way to tackle crime is to prevent it, but so far we have heard nothing about what you propose to do to get to the root of the problem. Early intervention and prevention services may be crucial to breaking the cycle of disadvantage and poverty. What's the Liberal government, if we're elected, going to do about that problem?
Well, if I could make the point first of all that it is a significant problem, Aboriginal incarceration. I think the figures in South Australia are actually 22% of the prison population. Yes, you're right, and 1.7 compared to 1.7 of the general population. But I'd make the point that it's actually got worse under the Labor government. The Indigenous prison population in South Australia has increased over the last 12 years by 111%, whereas the prison population for other South Australians has only increased by 53%. So Aboriginal South Australians have suffered doubly from the rat pack and sack approach of the Labor government. We fully believe in early intervention, and we also believe in, shall we say, general intervention too. Let's put it this way. My understanding is that there are some figures that suggest that an Aboriginal person without a job is 20 times more likely to be incarcerated than an Aboriginal person with a job. So our determination to return prosperity to South Australia will be of direct benefit to those who are disadvantaged. We would certainly have a strong focus on not only growing the economy but also growing jobs within the Indigenous community. In that regard, you started your question focusing on juveniles. It's also relevant to adults as they leave prison. We know the three risk factors for prisoners leaving prison is whether or not they can get housing, whether or not they can get a job, whether or not they can establish positive social relationships. We believe that we will have a significant focus in our correctional services work in trying to improve post-release employment. There are certainly models already operating in Australia that promote post-release employment. I know that there's a program in Queensland, for example, I think called Second Chance Employers, where employers who are open to engaging ex-offenders register. Only in the last 6 months I visited a prison in the United Kingdom which actually had a fully functioning business inside the prison walls. I visited another prison in the UK some time ago which not only had a prison...
is that what you're saying in South Australia?
Well, I believe that we do need to look at post-release employment. For example, if it works in Queensland, why wouldn't it work here? The fact of the matter is that something's not working. The Labor Party's been in for 12 years. We've actually had a double the rate of increase of Aboriginal prison population to the general prison population. We need to...
Well, if I might turn to the attorney now and make this comment on the way through it. We know, courtesy of the Bureau of Statistics figures, that the rate of Aboriginal imprisonment is not procured in South Australia. Mr. Attorney, what's nevertheless, you have been in government for this period of time. What fresh ideas have you got to do with this problem?
Well, there's a couple of things. First thing is that the whole question of Aboriginal communities and not just the questions of incarceration, but health outcomes, a whole range of things are totally unsatisfactory across the country. And there is no particular curiosity about what's happening or not happening in South Australia in that respect. Second thing I'd say is that there are a few things that we have been doing which help in relation to things like employment. For instance, a lot of the mining activity that's been going on in South Australia has been looking to specifically employ Aboriginal people in those industries so that they have meaningful employment, they're engaged in earning money without being welfare dependent. And those things make a small but important contribution there. But I think the main area that I've been looking at, and we will be pursuing, if we're in the position to do so, is some quite targeted justice reinvestment programs. We will implement a minimum of 2 of these within the next 12 months. My department's been working with the South Australian Justice Reinvestment Group. Some of the people here may have had some connection with that group, I don't know. And we're looking at identifying 2 sites, one in the metropolitan area, one in regional South Australia. And the first meeting of this group is on the 29th of May this year. And we're looking at a partnership between the Attorney General's Department and that working group to find some meaningful justice reinvestment programs. I do want to make it clear though that I do not support any program which is not capable of evaluation. Otherwise it's a feel-good exercise which is not necessarily achieving anything and may not be capable of replication. And so any proposal has to be rigorously worked out. It has to be capable of being evaluated, capable of being assessed, and capable of being replicated if indeed it turns out to be effective. So those 2, one regional, one city-based, will roll out in the next 12 months.
Right. It's putting on the spot, Mr. Wade, but if we had a Liberal government, would you do the same?
You see, I believe justice reinvestment is about reinvesting, and we would be looking at pilots like that. But one of the concerns I've had about the discussion so far is that they're talking about additional programs rather than actually suggest, and this may become obvious in the project briefs. So I think it's very important that the projects actually give us the opportunity to free up resources from the correctional services side of things back towards early intervention. That's the only way these things are going to be sustainable in a tough, distant environment.
Are there any questions on that? Yes, please.
The recent McCann report that came out from the recent state government recommended reduction in funding to an Aboriginal program to assist Aboriginal people to find careers in health. The funding for that is going to be removed in the McCann recommendations. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, the question you raise is about a particular program, and I have to confess I'm not aware of every program the government has running, particularly for health, because that's a very big place. But can I say this, that every program which is instituted is not necessarily successful. And the point I made about evaluation is critical. Any program to be worthy of continuing government support needs to be capable of being evaluated, needs to be monitored on a continuous basis, and needs to demonstrate results. I do not know of anything about that particular program, and it may or may not have been that those criteria were in place effectively for that program, and it may or may not be that it was replaced by some other program. But I'll just give you a very brief example that I think illustrates this point. In the United States, there was a program which was designed to deflect young people who were at risk of becoming institutional prison people from that path by intercepting them at a time of an early offence by these people and taking them off to a maximum security prison and sitting them in there with hardcore criminals for a period of time. The object of which was to say to them, well, once you've seen that, you definitely don't want to be part of that. What actually happened was, these young blokes got in there and thought, these blokes are pretty cool, I wouldn't mind coming in here myself. And they had worse outcomes than the people who weren't in the program. So it's got to be thought out very carefully, it's got to be capable of being evaluated, it's got to be capable of being replicated.